Okay, so this is my review of Lovecraft Country, Episode 1, Sundown. Now, this project has two big names behind it in J.J. Abrams and Jordan Peele. They're both executive producing it, and what really shows in this is that we get a nice blend of J.J. Abrams' sci-fi and mystery and Jordan Peele's social commentary and horror. This series, the showrunner is Misha Green, and it's based off a 2016 fantasy horror novel of the same name. Now, this episode was directed by Jan Demanji and written by Misha Green herself. And our lead here is Jonathan Majors, who plays Atticus Freeman, aka Tick. I am not familiar with his work. He's a relatively new actor, and I fell in love with him right from the start. I think he has that likability that you can't even just teach in acting. It's just you have it or not, and he has it clearly. The camera is just attracted to him, and as a protagonist, there's something about him that glues you in and wants you to be on his side. And what I really liked about this opening episode, the decision they made to really put you in the shoes of Atticus. That starts literally actually going into the mind of Atticus in his dream sequence, which is the opening sequence of this show. What I really liked about this is it gives you some information offhand and gets you already understanding your main character here that you're going to be on the ride with. It looked really cool having this black and white beginning where he's going through the trenches here, and it transitioning to color with this big explosion, and then all of a sudden you see the pulpiness here and the sci-fi and the Lovecraft taste to it with the monsters, the UFOs. And what I love about this is it makes the decision to let the audience know stuff's gonna get weird, and it doesn't let you waste your time if you're not into that. And I appreciate when a show does that and doesn't kind of leave you maybe revealing that there's gonna be sci-fi or monsters in this episode 4 or 5, and then some people be like, well, I don't like that at all. So you know what you're getting into. So you look at color palettes, and Jordan Peele is one of those people who loves the work of Stanley Kubrick. He's a huge fan of The Shining. The Shining being a movie that uses the color red constantly, and here he takes that approach in his color palette to use a main color that's to direct your attention. It's to mean things thematically, but it's also just the color of the show. It's the color of the horror aspect of the show, the weirdness of the show, and it's red. You see that right away. I mean, the lady coming down from the UFO is painted in red. He goes to this character and he hugs her, and in his dream, it's his kind of outsider saving him from this mess he's in and these monsters he faces every day in real life, but you're seeing them as characters he loves and being the hero and trying to save the day. And it works with the social commentary blend because you see this monster and then Jackie Robinson comes through and kills him, which was really cool. And it looks great. Already it doesn't feel like a show, and HBO is one of the only networks that can actually really pull this off, and it felt like you're watching a movie the whole time. The budget is high here. This is a big project, and they are showing it. And we'll get more into that red and how much it's shown here in the episode. And it transitions from this dream sequence to him on the bus now, and you're hit with reality like he is, that it was just a dream. And now he is on a bus, and he's in the back of the bus, and you see that they're in Kentucky, and it's Jim Crow South here. And when I'm talking about how well they showed us from his point of view, you see so many point of view shots from Atticus. It already starts here when the bus breaks down and he just sees different white people giving him dirty looks. You really are put to feel what he was feeling. And they get right to the themes right away and kind of what we're going, what the conflicts are, which I appreciate as well, which keeps the pace fast. So when he talks to this fellow African-American, this stranger, he's telling her about the book he's reading, The Princess of Mars. But the hero in the story is an ex-Confederate, right? So she calls him out on that and says, it doesn't matter. How can he be a hero if he was a Confederate soldier? And he has this great line where he's like, stories are like people. You try to cherish them, but overlook their flaws. This is going to open a big theme in the show. It's also going to set up how it addresses now H.P. Lovecraft, because H.P. Lovecraft, this super popular author in a genre he basically created and a vibe he created with great works, also has a huge asterisk on him being a super racist guy, and it kind of gets hidden a lot. And the show is going to address that, and it's going to address these complications of like loving someone's art, but maybe not their beliefs, and where it gets muddled, and it goes even deeper. And we'll try to go to the layers in the show because it's super layered, and it's good because it gives you character motivations right away too, all in this one scene where he's saying that, where we learn he joined the army because he wants to be a hero, and he doesn't get that opportunity being an African American in downtown Chicago, as he says. And number two is that he wanted to get away from his dad. And why this is great writing is because it gives you a mindset into his character and what he's like, but it also quickly flips and gives us the conflict of the story here, the premise that his father's missing. And then we get a title transition card of Chicago. But here we're gonna meet Uncle George now, played by Courtney B. Vance. It's cool when we meet his family because I like they have his daughter is an illustrator, comics at that, and it adds spice here and it can open doors to a lot of themes and plot lines and stuff to kind of follow and pay attention to. So they're giving every character some purpose. And I absolutely love how she's the one making these safe travel guides for Black people. And it's highlighted with monsters in it for bad areas, and you also see KKK members. So it's crazy art, it's detailed, it's a really cool concept, and they pull it off really, really well, and it makes it interesting, suspenseful, mysterious, all these things, just checking off boxes that make something so entertaining. And they give the uncle a little bit of a story here with his wife because she wants to be able to go on these trips where they're going to different areas, but he says it's not safe for a woman. And he'll kind of have an emotional payoff moment later on, which we'll get to with the wife. But what's important here is when we see the uncle first, really with Atticus. Atticus finds a book by H.P. Lovecraft, The Outsider and Others. Now, if you look at this cover, what's crazy about the cover of that book is that it literally is the inspiration to the dream sequence we saw in the beginning. The characters you see, the monsters you see, it's all there. Really cool. And what's important is they make an insert shot here where you see it says Arkham on the book, and he's paying attention to that as we're supposed to, and that triggers him in his head because he thinks that his father's letter telling him where he went, he thinks it says Arkham, so he's like, oh, it's Lovecraft Country. But you see the uncle's very weird about all this, and he says no, it's a D, it's Ardham. So that adds mystery to it because we know this is a final destination, but there's a little hint that Ardham's more than it seems, and maybe it is Arkham. So he brings up this poem H.P. Lovecraft wrote on the creation of N-words. It's a really bad poem. It's really dark and awful if you haven't read it. But the show addresses this right away. And we learn that he was taught by his father about this poem and why he shouldn't read these books because of this. So it's setting up where these themes are going to go and lessons we'll learn as the show goes on, which we don't really have the message yet, but it makes him an interesting character, Atticus, because he's conflicted, because he really does enjoy this guy's stories, but he knows he's got an asterisk to his name and some darkness to him. I also like the Jordan Peele touch here where it transitions to some modern music here. It's not just music from the 50s. I think that works. It makes the show have its own unique voice. And they drizzle in information to the main story here, which is good, about the mystery of the dad and how Atticus learns that his dad went off from this bar into a silver sedan, and it said that this person looked like a lawyer, and it was a white person. So it's good because it sets up the silver sedan mystery, which we get through the episode where we see it's actually watching Atticus from this moment. So this car has been following them the whole way. And later on, we'll stop the other car from attacking them, and we'll get a lady in a red hat come out. And we'll get more into that silver car because it actually is at the end of the episode as well. So let's now go to our third main player here in Letitia, played by Jurnee Smollett. So we see she's a singer, she's a photographer, and she's with her sister here. She's come to this town now, just like Atticus has. She's looking for somewhere to crash. She kind of goes from place to place, doesn't have much money. And you're going to see, again, it's shot in all these red lights, the dance scene. And the character of Letitia is wearing red this whole episode. This scene, she's got a red shirt on. Later on, she'll have a red pants. She has red lipstick, red fingernails, just fitting in with the red theme of the show. I just love that attention to detail and keeping a cool color palette theme to the show. Subconsciously reminding you what you're dealing with and how crazy the show can get. I think one of my only few complaints about this episode was maybe the dance singing number here was a little long. Because this episode was an hour and 8 minutes, I feel like knowing it was over an hour and already was so well paced, the one moment that actually slowed the pace off and felt a little odd was having the singing scene go for about 3-4 minutes, maybe cut it down to 2. I think we got the point. But you see she was a childhood friend to Tick. She recognizes him, but doesn't really recognize him because he's all jacked now. And she said he used to be just the smart kid with the glasses. So when they actually go in this car and we learn that they're going on the road trip together, it was kind of rushed and a little unnatural how quickly we just learn the reason she's going is she's going to go part way and that her brother can help them understand where they're going. It was really just thrown in there really fast, and it was felt forced because it's the first scene we're actually seeing Tick and her talk to each other. So maybe you could have used another scene with them together before she just comes along for the ride. There was a very mysterious scene thrown in here where Tick is on the phone and he calls a number in South Korea, and the woman on the other line says, "Vic, you went home, you shouldn't have." So a cool thing where they're adding again more mystery, and this creepy rail tracks playing in the background and light music was very nice touch to add to the horror atmosphere. So where the show really ramps up is when they actually get on the road, and we're in this red car and we see a Midwest transition, and you see a sign right away that says, "N-words don't let the sun set on you here, understand." So now we're getting to the human horror of the show. And what makes this HBO quality, what makes this great television is with all the excitement you're getting historical lesson, you're learning, you're seeing through other people's eyes. And again, just how powerful it was having audio of James Baldwin here. It just works so well because you're seeing what he's talking about in the audio, and these racist white people at the gas station they run to, they're literally making monkey sounds to them, horrible stuff. And I think that's what Jordan Peele's voice does so well with all this, is he knows how to make a statement politically, make social commentary, remind you of stuff, see different angles of things, learn and get smarter as a viewer, and then he gives you horror, human horror mixed in so well with monsters and fear and suspense. And this is some of the best we've seen of it, where as an executive producer I thought Twilight Zone has just been really bad, so this was so great to see this be really good and add a good thing to his resume. And I love the little touch here where the uncle brings up when they stop that they should stop at a diner in Simmonsville, but Atticus is like, "Oh, on that guide map we got from your daughter, he mentions there's trolls on it," and they still go there. So it shows you how important that guide map is, and it highlights the areas of where there's going to be trouble. And you see when they get to Simmonsville, again, back to how good they do these point of view moments with Atticus, and he's driving and the fire department guys are just staring at them and a dog barking at them. It's just really making you feel here. And I love when they go in this diner, the minute they see the white people and they're the worker and the customer, it's a Dutch angle to make it feel like serious horror and that stuff is about to go down. And you see it's a red brick building diner. They got the red curtains in there. They're in red seats, so fitting the color palette of the show. And I love the first really suspenseful scene of the episode, where Lita's looking through the diner door at the worker, knows they are in trouble, and it's overlaid with the narration from Atticus talking about why is the White House white, looking at the white bricks in the diner, making a connection. The floorboard pulls up, and she's like, "Let's get the hell out of here. That was crazy." And we get this awesome car chase shootout. This is where it really felt like you were watching a movie. I mean, this is episodes better than many movies I watched in the past 2 years, so you're really getting your buck's worth if you subscribe to HBO for this. This is why when television is great nowadays, to me it's just better than even really good movies. And this whole shootout was awesome, how it led to the silver sedan coming in and having these three cars and these big aerial shots. It felt so big, like kind of like a scene from Hitchcock's North by Northwest with the cornfields. Really felt inspired by that, and it just worked really well. And what's interesting is when they get to Lita's brother's house, he warns them about this sheriff in Devon County, which we'll eventually see. We see a picture of him here. And we get this emotional moment with the uncle on the phone talking to his wife. It's extreme close-ups, giving significance to it, coming around as a character saying he wants his wife to come with him on his next guide trip. And was it just me, or this is where I felt like he was definitely going to die this episode? And they tease you that later on as well, because you're getting this big emotional moment for him. It's kind of a happy moment, and you're like, oh no, this guy's done for. And they tease it a lot in the monster sequence, which we'll get to. And you're going to see this more highlight the conflict of Atticus and his dad when he talks about with the uncle, saying how his father basically didn't support his decision to go to the army, and he was upset that he didn't write one letter to him. But the uncle's like, no, but he still loved you, and he still wanted to hear about you and wanted you to be okay. So it's, again, going into this complicated character of Atticus and maybe what he'll learn as the show goes on, and going to themes of ancestry. And that's obviously talked about why the father in the first place went to Ardham, because he's trying to find out about something he learned that is their birthright and about their past. So it relates a lot to Watchmen too, if you've seen the show this season. A lot of those themes are very similar here, which is kind of cool. But I love out of this scene, we get this really cool transition of the lightning happening, and there's like this little creepy piano playing. really setting stage for the biggest horror sequence coming next. And that's when we hit Devon County. I love how they did this scene because they set it up so well. Because they pull over the car, you're already seeing the sun's going down. And we saw the sign earlier warning about that. And they hint about the monsters because Atticus says to Lita that there's this blob monster that's there that they're hearing. And she's obviously not taking it seriously. But as the audience, we know it's coming, and we get the payoff in this episode. We get to see that monster. So I thought that was great. And as he talks about one mythological monster, then we see the real monster come out in this sheriff. And it gets really crazy here. He's saying if he found them after sundown, he would have hung them. This is amazing tension building because he's giving them these like impossible scenarios to actually survive this. And this is really where Jonathan Majors shined in this episode. You feel his fear. You feel him getting terrified, but knowing he has no choice but to follow his instinct, to do what the sheriff's telling him, making him say this awful thing, the pretty please line, making him say the N-word. It's insanity, and it's such a hard scene to pull off for an actor, something so deep and tense, and everyone here kills it. The sheriff kills it. Jurnee Smollett absolutely kills it in her reactions, and I was just really blown away by this sequence and the way they did this car chase, because you see from his point of view as the sun's going down, and he also sees the mile per hour sign is 25 miles per hour, so he can only go a certain amount or the cop's gonna use that as a reason to pull them over. It's insanity. I don't remember such a tense scene in such a long time. Like, this was like shocking how good this was. Like, my heart was to my throat at this point. And how they use the camera to give a shallow focus that we only see his face when he's driving, and it's all blurry behind him, just putting you in that anxiety and fear. And this is where it felt like The Walking Dead, because they get to the train tracks and you feel the relief, and then there's like this stop area where there's more racist white cops, and like The Walking Dead, it's like they're getting away from these monsters, but instead of zombies, it's just racist cops, which is just works really well. And just that's just a formula that always makes suspense, is you can't win, right? You're just trying to survive and constantly just making it out by a little string. So they do that so well here. And the irony being that one group of monsters saves them from another group of monsters. So we get these mythological monsters that come out. And I love this is where we get the brutal gore, the brutal Guillermo del Toro-esque monsters that are actually scary. They look great, and it feels like a Jurassic Park or Quiet Place sequence. And you're seeing that because they're running through woods. The music's intense. The monsters look like monsters from A Quiet Place or Stranger Things, and the flashlights are how we're seeing them, like in Jurassic Park. So it just was inspired, you see, by so much, and just really just paid off. And use of the loud sounds through the woods, so much like Jurassic Park. And they run now to this barn door that's red, and this is a sequence I'm talking about where they really teased Uncle George was gonna go here, where he's like, where's Uncle George? Fans love stuff that in these moments references other popular stuff, and how they reference Dracula and he connects the uncle to use the lights to take out the monsters. And you get satisfaction because you're seeing these cops get it that you just don't like. And it was cool seeing them turn into monsters themselves. And I think this is where Jurnee Smollett had her moment to shine. She was awesome when she runs to the car, has to get out of the barn, the fear on her face. It's hard to pull that off. Any kind of scream queen moments that any actor or actress has to pull off is really much harder than it looks. You can make it so cheesy and not believable. She totally sells it and kills it. And we get to see the blob monster here, and we see them get away, and by the end of this episode they get to Artem already, which is awesome. It feels like this whole episode could play like a movie on its own. And we get to the mansion here, and with the red theme, you see they're all covered in blood. Literally, you look at Lita, and not only are her pants always been red and her lipstick, now her whole outfit is red because of the blood. And we get to this mansion, you see the silver sedan there, so you know that's where that came from. And we see this new character at the door, this mysterious character, and he says, welcome home. So what a cliffhanger, what a premiere. I am blown away how good this was. I mean, it had everything going for it. So few mistakes, and filled with suspense, filled with themes, filled with a purpose, and doesn't waste a second. And I think it's exciting to see really good acting as well, and really good characters being built, and a lot of money put into this. And it's exciting because it's like, okay, a great HBO Sunday show is starting now. It's always exciting, and I like that it's not the binge format, because then you could talk about it with people week to week. It's like an event, and I think people really need that right now, especially in the times we're living. I'm giving this one a 9.7. Let me know what you thought of it down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I read every comment, try to respond as many as I can. Let's get the discussion going. Let's make it big here. And please subscribe so you don't miss one of my reviews of the show. I promise I'll be doing every episode of Lovecraft Country. You also don't want to miss my celebrity interviews as well. And please follow me at Steve Varley Show on Twitter and Instagram for more of me. And I'll see you next time.